Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Now today we are here to talk about GMAT and CAT exam. This is the hot topic and most of the Indians are always confused whether to go abroad or to be in India. Now there are so many things to compare before we plan or abroad education or India education. So let's look at some of the things which we actually plan when we plan our higher studies, right? So what are the main things? So if you look at, it's basically as an Indian we plan, right? The first thing is cost. How much is the cost going to be, right? So if you talk about, let's say I make it to Nursi Monji, the average fees is around 22 to 25 lakhs, right? And I make it to some other college grades, right? So the fees is around 20 lakh. Whereas if you make it to abroad, let's say you're going to Canada, if you're going into a college, so your fees may be around 10 to 20 lakh. Similarly, if you plan to get into UK, your fees could fit in around the same budget, 20 to 25 lakh. So in terms of cost, if you ask me honestly, if you are not getting IIMs in India, it's always a good advice to go abroad because you will have a good exposure, right? And how does exposure comes, right? It's not about who is teaching you, who is sitting along with you. So it comes from a peer. So if I got in my classroom, the people who comes from a Korea, China, and a Australia, so which means I'm going to learn a lot. So you always learn from a peer. If you're sitting in Indian B school, I'm not saying you are not going to learn in IIM, but apart from that, if you're sitting somewhere else, you will be sitting with the average minds. So it's always a great idea when you plan your studies abroad. Now, coming long-term goal, right? So let's say most of us have a plan. What is going to be happen after 10 years? So if you want to be really very successful, make a big in your life, if you see so many people, right? Like Sachin Pilot, let's take an example of him. He did his MBA from IIMT Ghaziabad, then afterwards he went to Wharton. If you take an example of Ratan Tata, right? He did from Harvard. If you take an example of, let's say, Akash Ambani, right? So all those people, they have gone to abroad and they have gone to the top-notch universities. Now again, I'm not saying the fees will remain same. If you plan to get into the top-notch US universities, the fees will vary and it's going to be very high. But at the same time, it's difficult to make it to those Ivy League as well. But yes, if you get into some other top B schools, the structure of fees would remain same. Now, about life, right? So I should not be saying much thing about this, we are Indians. Hamara desh hame pyara hai. We love India, right? And we want to be in India, that's a good thing. But as you already know, look at the, road conditions. Look at the infra, what we're gonna get. Look at the metros, right? Bombay mein metro ban rahi hai, wo banti ja rahi hai. So everything is there, right? If you compare outside the roads, the quality of life, the cleanliness, the air, I'm not saying India is bad. I love India and I want to be in India only, but it's about like how much you want to be big in your career. So if you're planning that, and if you want to have a quality life, I would recommend that you should go abroad, right? If you are targeting management in your life. Now, so these were the basic parameters we have as an Indian student when we plan our studies. So I think I'm covered about the cost, right? Which is very much the big factor. So you should today go and search about, all the top-notch universities in India and the other top B schools in the world. So how much they're gonna cost you. Now let's look at what we have to do for that, right? So there are 2 exams. In India, if I'm planning to pursue my MBA, I would like to sit for CAT, right? Now, CAT has acceptance in how many? Like around 130 plus MBA schools, right? Whereas if you give GMAT, you will be getting reach to around 8,000 plus colleges. It's in India as well and abroad as well. So many Indian schools also started accepting the GMAT score as well. Toughness, if you are the guy who love quant, I would say CAT is exam for you. But if you don't like quant and you're good with the verbal, GMAT is the exam for you, right? So you should prepare for GMAT. If you're okay with the quant and you're good with the verbal, or even you are average in verbal, average in quant, GMAT is the right exam for you. The time duration, if you could see, the exam time duration would remain almost similar. Now again, the good thing about GMAT, the validity. The exam validity is around 5 years. Whereas, the validity of scores in CAT is only 1 year. If your first attempt is bad, let's say in 23, you have to wait for November 24 to write the next attempt. Whereas in the GMAT, it is not like this. In After around approx 3 weeks, you can write your second attempt. So it's always advisable, right? When you're planning abroad, you should go for GMAT. Now, success rate. So if I look at how many Indians write CAT, so it's around 3.3 lakh Indians write CAT, and out of those there are only 5,500 seats available. So success rate is around, I would say, less than 2%, where you want to get into IIMs. Now, whereas in GMAT, if you're planning to write it, most of the Indians who write it, they have around 10% success rate, making it to very good college. Now, about coming to the prep time. Now, CAT required almost 8 to 12 months dedicated prep, because the level of quant is very high, very vast. DILR, it's going to be very complex. Similarly, if I look around the GMAT, you simply say it's 3 to 4 months prep and you would be done with this, right? So you give your exam. If you're not happy with this course, you write a second attempt as well within your reach, within the 3 weeks only. So that's the amazing part of this, right? Now, I will also recommend one more thing here. Many people say don't give GMAT, GRE, go with the IELTS only, right? So it's up to you. Where would you like to go? You would like to go to a top university or a mediocre, I would say, below average college. So if you're happy with the below average college, you should go with the only IELTS and TOEFL. But if you're aiming a top-notch university, you should always do GMAT and GRE. And then in the side, obviously language test is required, so you do IELTS and then go. So if you compare like this, I want to apply to IIM. अच्छा, आपको हिंदी आती है, हिंदी या पंजाबी का एग्जाम दो, IIM में आ जाओ. Does it happen? No, right? So you have to give CAT. Similarly, if you want to go abroad into a top-notch college, you're good at language, you can speak language, you can understand, आ जाओ. No, you have to be good at aptitude. That's why these exams are there, GMAT and GRE. So you should always aim for these exams. If you are a mediocre student or you are a very good student, you should always have that plan. Like many of my students, they have got call from IIMs, still they have given GMAT and GRE, and they have opted for the better colleges than the IIMs even. So I would always recommend this. As I already said, the CAT is mainly for IIMs if you're targeting that, right? So the success rate is around only 2%. So it's up to you, right? You want to be in those 2%, that's a very good thing. But if not possible, I would always recommend to go for GMAT. Now, why GMAT? Like, let's say whether you're planning to only abroad or you are confused, I might look for Indian options or also abroad option. So it's always a good idea to give GMAT. Again, one more good part of it, let's say you're confused. I would like to go for my master's or MBA after 2 years. I don't know. I would like to work first. So these scores are valid for the 5 years. So whenever you feel you want to go for MBA, you can use this score. So that's the amazing part of the GMAT, right? If you have any problem regarding GMAT, GRE, or you're still confused like which one to choose, either to CAT or GMAT, GRE, I am available for one-on-one call, discussion, any doubts. So you can always reach out to me. We'll be available to answer your queries. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much. You guys are amazing. I'll see you next time around. Bye-bye.